Hi, hi everyone. Yeah. I'm sorry for being late. Yeah, any questions for me before I move on to the next topic? Yeah, I couldn't find time last day. I'll be forwarding the interview questions today. Okay. If no questions, I'll move on to the next topic. As I listed yesterday, the next topic gonna be threats. So, any guesses you would like to take? Why? What is thread and why do we need threads? And what do you mean by multi-threading? Okay, as you know, what exactly we mean by multi-threading? So the good tutorial or the basic tutorial for multi-threading gonna be, as I always suggest, tutorialspoint.com. You can also look at javatpoint.com. In javatpoint.com, when you go to the Java, you see, yeah, multi-threading. So here he says, what is multi-threading? Multi-threading is a process of executing multiple threads simultaneously. So all these days we did some programs, and at a given point of time we were able to run only one program. At a given point of time we were able to run only one program, that is your main. We were able to execute only one program, that is your main, right? And that is your main thread. So there was only one thread which was getting executed all these days, that was your main thread. It was the main thread. So let me do a first sample program to support that. There was one thread which always runs in the background, that was your main thread. Let's say here, I would like to determine, or I would like to figure out, is the thread running in the background or not. So I have a class and I have a main method. And in this, I just would like to have a so thread is a class in java.lang package. Thread is a class in java.lang package, and on that thread I would like to say current thread. So there is a static method. If you see here, you are invoking a method. We are invoking a method on the class. We are invoking a method on the class. So as I said, there is one thread which executes in the background, that is your main thread. So if you see, there is a square braces. In the square braces you have three values. The first value is the name of the thread. The second value is the priority. The third value is the group it belongs to. The third value is the group it belongs to. Right. The first one is what? The first one is the name of the thread. The second one is the priority. The third one is the group it belongs to. So a thread will have a priorities, or one can set the priorities for the threads. How, that we will discuss later. But let's display what is the values of this. What is the value in the maximum priority? So what exactly these constant values are? Max, min, and the norm. So one can also set the threads. So what is the significance of this priority? When you want to write a multi-threaded program, so what was a multi-threaded program? At a given point of time, two threads execute simultaneously, or more than one thread executes simultaneously. When you have more than one thread getting executed simultaneously, you want to prioritize which thread to execute first and which thread to execute last. You can do that with the help of this set priority method. If you see, the maximum priority value is 10, the minimum priority is 1, and the normal priority is the 5. Similarly, you have a lot of static methods. Now these are constants. So we saw a sleep method in the last class. We have a sleep method in the last class. So similarly, you have a lot of other methods to find out, to do a lot of operations. So I just want to tell you here that one thread always runs in the background, that is your main thread. So all these days we were running the main program, but your main program is also being executed as a thread, is also treated as a thread. Who will treat it as a thread? Your JVM treat it as a thread. And what is the name of the thread? Main. What is the priority? 5. That is your normal priority. And which group it belongs to? The main group it belongs to. Now, so we have a class called thread. We have a class called thread. I can create object of it. It's a class. So we can create object for a class. I was able to create object of it. Now, thread dot. What you want to do? I would like to set the name of the thread. Let the name of the thread be Arun. You can also set the priority. You can print it. Arun is a thread, belongs to the group main, and the priority is 10. But this is fine, but how do we associate? How do we associate some operations with the thread? How do we associate some operations with the thread? You are just creating a thread object, you are setting the name of the thread, you are setting the priority, and you are printing it. But normally why do we go for threading? Right, what exactly he defined threading as? Thread is basically a lightweight sub-process or a smallest unit of sub-processing, right? So what exactly we do? We have to create a thread. That is, you are nothing but you have some job to be done. You have some job to be done, and that job need to be associated with the thread. And I have the opportunity or I have the luxury to run those threads together. I have the luxury to run those threads together. Now, he has given what is the difference between the multitasking and multi-threading, right? What is the difference between the multitasking or multi-threading, or you call it as multitasking only? But there are two types of multitasking: process-based multitasking and thread-based multitasking. So here he listed down the differences between the process-based multitasking and thread-based multitasking. So if you look at this diagram, when it comes to your process-based multitasking, they share different segments of memory: process 1, process 2, process 3. So if I have to switch between the process 1 and process 2, it needs a lot of system memory. So each process have its own address in a memory. That's what if you see the 3 processes, and each process allocates separate memory area, and process is heavyweight and cost of communication is very high. Why? Because switching from one process to another process means whatever you are doing in this process, you should maintain the state of it. Then you can move to the another one. And then from there, if you want to move to another process, again maintain the state of the current process and move to another one. Whereas when it comes to multi-threading, within the process, you have threads. That is, your threads share the same address area, and they are lightweight because the cost of communication between the thread is low, because all the threads share a common area. So there is something called context switching. There is something called context switching. Context switching is switching between each thread. So or switching between each process. The switching between each process is high because they share different memory locations. Whereas switching between each thread is very low. I mean, the cost is very low because they share the same memory area. Next. So next thing I would like to discuss is how do we create threads? How do we create threads and how do we run them together? How do we create threads and how do we run them together? So there are two ways to create a thread. So first I would like to start with one. So I'm creating a thread class, thread 1. So as I said, there are two ways to create threads. The first way to create the thread is extend the thread class. The first way to create the thread is extend the thread class. And as I said, what is thread? Thread is a sub-process. Thread is a sub-process. But what process it should do, or what operation it should perform? Whatever the operation it need to perform, that need to be listed or that need to be written inside the run method. So what you want your thread to do, that should be written inside a run method. So how one can create a thread? One can create a thread by extending the class thread. One can create a thread by extending the class thread, and what the thread need to perform, what the thread need to do, that is written inside the run method. That is written inside the run method. Now what I want to do in this run method, I want to print 5 times. I want to print 5 times. I want to print the 5 times the name of the thread. I want to print 5 times the name of the thread. This is my agenda. But did I set the name of the thread? I didn't. Did I set the name of the thread? I didn't. So I'm having a constructor. I'm having a constructor which takes a string argument, and that string argument I can use it to set the name of the thread. So there is a built-in method called setName. I'm invoking the setName method to set the name of the thread. If you want, we can also set the priority to it. So the name of the thread is set. Then get name. In the run method, I'm printing the name of the thread for Python. But normally, how your thread starts working? So what we need to do is, there are two options to start the thread. Run thread with a main method. Create the object of the thread 1. Then I pass argument. Then I can say thread1 dot start. So what happens when I call the start method? Alright, when I call the start method, it invokes the run method. When I call the start method, it invokes the run method. So start is not a user defined method. Start is a built-in method. Start a built-in method of class thread. So when you call even the set name and get name also. Set name and get name. Set name and get name are built-in methods of class thread. So how do you start a thread? You don't call the run method. Rather you call the start method, and that start method is going to invoke the run method. The start method invokes the run method. The start method invokes the run method, and the run method is going to print it. Name of the thread for Python. Simple, right? So what we learned in this activity is how do we create a thread and how do we run the thread. How do we create a thread? Extend the class thread, right, and override the run method and override the run method. And what I am doing as a part of the thread, I want my thread to print the name of the thread for 5 times. Then there is a method called getName to get the name of the thread. And I also got a set method to set the name of the thread. So in the constructor, I am calling the setName method to set the name of the thread. And in the run method, I am calling the getName method to get the name of the thread. Then what I am doing next? I am invoking the start method. I am invoking the start method to start the thread, and that start method is going to call the run method, and the thread execution starts. The start method, setName method, getName method, they are all built-in methods of the class thread. Even run also. But the run method, we are overriding it. The run method we are overriding because the run method should possess the logic or should possess the operation what thread needs to perform. Now currently the thread is printing the name of the thread for Python. This is This is how we create a thread, and you also saw how do we run the thread. Now, there is another way of creating a thread. There is another way of creating a thread. I'm creating a class thread2. Now this thread2 implements runnable. Now your thread class also implemented runnable. If you look at the thread1, you are creating a thread by extending what? Class thread. Now your class thread already implemented the interface runnable. Your class thread already implemented the interface runnable. See, every thread has a priority. The threads with higher priority are executed in preference to the threads with lower priority. Now, so there is another way of creating a thread, that is you can implement the interface runnable. And when you implement the interface runnable, then overriding becomes must. The run method you need to override. Now what I want to do here? Same thing I want to do. What is the same thing you want to do? I want to print the name of the thread for 5 times. I also want my thread2 to print the name of the thread for 5 times. So when I try to say get name, it's not accessible. When I try to say get name, it's not accessible. Why get name is not accessible? Why get name is not accessible? The reason, the get name, set name, start, they all belongs to what? They all belongs to the thread class. So what belongs to the runnable interface? So let's go back and look at the command dot prompt. Then there is something called Java Feeds, Java Profile. So it's not recognized. So let's set the path first. Oh, not here. Program files, Java JDK bin. Copy the address. Yeah, you see there is only one method in it. What is that? Run method. So one can create a thread by implementing the interface runnable. Runnable got an a method. Runnable got an a method called run. Runnable got an a method called run. Runnable got an a method called run. Now, but I don't have the access to the get name, set name and all the stuff. Then what I should do in this case? Now in this case, what you need to do is, I am creating a thread reference in the class. If you observe, I am creating a thread reference in the class thread2. Then I am creating an object of it in the constructor. Now this constructor takes the current class object as an argument. This refers to instance of class thread2. This refers to instance of the class thread2. Now using that instance, using the thread instance, I can call set name, set the name of the thread. Then when I want to call get name, I can also say, coming back here, As usual, the same stuff gonna happen here. Thread 2. Give the name of the thread. Oh, sorry. Yeah, here your concern start. You won't be able to say start method here. Why you won't be able to say start method here? The reason being, you are implementing the interface runnable. Since you are implementing the interface runnable, you don't have access to the get name, set name and start method. So that is the reason in the class thread2, you created a thread object, and with the help of the thread object, you are calling the setter methods. Now what I do in this case is, I create a thread2 object, the constructor executes, and in the constructor, I am calling the set method to set the name of the thread. In the same way, I can also call the start method here to start the thread. Invoking start here, as it won't be accessible to thread2 object, because thread2 class is implementing the interface runnable, and runnable interface got only run method to override. It don't got the set name, get name and start method. So with the constructor, anyhow I am creating a thread object, and that thread object is taking argument of what? Thread2 object. Then I am associating thread2 class object with the thread. Then I am setting the name of the thread and I am starting the thread. So when these all things happen, when you create object, constructor executes, then within the constructor you are creating a thread object, setting the name and starting the thread. At this time I have two different names. If you see, your thread 1 got executed first, then your thread 2. But where is multi-threading happening? Is multi-threading happening here? No, they are executing one after the another. The threads are executing one after the another. Your thread 1 executes first, and then your thread 2. There is no multi-threading happening. They are executing one after the another. So if you create threads, they don't get executed automatically. I mean, if you create threads, okay.
Hi Arun.
Yeah, hi.
I had a question about the start method. When you're implementing the runnable interface in the thread 2, what if we override the start method and make it call the run method
You can do
instead
that.
of doing
You,
that? We
you,
work the same.
you can override the start method, and from the start method you can call the run method too. Okay. But what is why you want to override the start method? First we need to understand what exactly the start method is going to do.
Okay.
So if you start looking at, I think this guy has listed down a question there here, somewhere it will be there. What happens if we call the run method instead of calling the start method? So the reason is, if you try to call run method, it will be completely in a different context. Alright. So we'll come back to this question, because there is we need to understand what start method we're gonna do. Alright. So what the start method gonna do is, in simple words I'll let you know. The start method ensures that these two threads run in the same environment.
Okay.
See, normally this thread should be all under one what do you say? They should run under one process, right? Or what is multi-threading? Multi-threading is what? The threads are sub-processes. And these all sub-processes should work under a single process and ensure the completeness of it. Right? So the start method is going to ensure that these all threads run under one single process. Right. So if you start your call, if you call your run method on your own, or if you override the start method, then you will miss the functionality what is written in the start method. So somebody has written a start method, so he has ensured that something should happen properly. There should something goes that what is that, you know, it should be run in a multi-threaded environment. So that is being ensured by your start method. So if you write your own start method, then you will be missing the functionality which is already been written.
Okay.
But of course, if you can implement that, so what exactly the start method they did it, if you understand what they have written inside, then you can also write the start method on your own. So we're going to come back to that again, to this question, you know, why we need to call the start method to call the, and start method will call the run method. Why can't I call the run method directly, or why can't we override the start method and then call the run method? So in order to understand these questions, we need to understand what start method is doing. So that we will come back to it later.
Okay, thank you.
Here we go again. So you have two threads, and the concern was the threads are getting executed one after the another. There is no multi-threading happening. That is, they are not getting executed simultaneously. Of course, never threads gets executed simultaneously. So when I say multi-threading, always there will be assumption. More than one thread executes simultaneously. But now, unless and until you have a multi-processor, I mean, earlier we used to have a single processor. Now we have a dual core processor, i3 processor, or i5 processor, or quad processor. So now you have a multi-processors. Now there is a possibility of threads getting executed simultaneously. But initially, threads never gets executed simultaneously. They execute one after the another. The processor switches between the threads. That is what I was talking about, context switching. Now, what do you mean by context switching? So context switching can be applied for switching between the processes or switching between the threads. Now when I am switching between the process or when I am switching between the thread, I need to maintain the status of the existing thread. Suppose you have two threads and you want to switch between the first thread and the second thread. Then the status of the first thread need to be maintained because you need to come back to the first thread again. Right? So how do we see? So if you create threads, it doesn't mean that they execute simultaneously. If you create threads, that doesn't mean that they execute parallelly. You have to ensure that they execute parallelly. How do I ensure that they execute parallelly? Now I'm going to add a time lag. Look, after printing the name of the thread, I'm adding a time lag for half a second. I'm adding a time lag for half a second. I also do it in the thread too. After printing the name of the thread, I will add a lag for the half of the second. Now you see the difference in the output. So what is happening? The threads are getting executed parallelly. But are they really executing parallelly? No. Your thread 1 prints Arun and your thread 1 goes to sleep. Then since it is sleeping, the thread 2 comes into the picture and prints it. And after printing, thread 2 goes to sleep. Since thread 2 gone to sleep, your thread 1 which was sleeping earlier, it comes back to the active mode and it starts printing Arun. Again your thread 1 goes to sleep. So whenever your thread 1 is going to sleep, your thread 2 comes into the picture, and when thread 2 goes into the sleep and thread 1 comes into the picture. So you have to ensure that the threads run simultaneously. If you just create threads, it doesn't mean that they execute parallelly. If you just create threads, that doesn't mean that they execute parallelly. So you have to ensure that they execute one after, you have to write the time lag in such a way that they execute one after the, they execute simultaneously. But it gives a feel that they are executing simultaneously, but never your processor executes simultaneously. Your processor executes one after the another, but the time lag is very, very small. Here I had it at 500 milliseconds, but if I change it to something, like 100 milliseconds or, very less milliseconds, and what happens? You don't even feel that they are executing one after another. It looks like they are executing simultaneously, but actually your processor will execute only one process at a time. Sorry, your processor will execute only one thread at a time. So what we learned from this activity is there are two different ways to create a threads, and how do we start the thread, right? And if we just create a thread, do they execute parallelly, or do we need to write a logic to ensure that they execute parallelly? Right? So this is what we learned. Then how to set the priority for a thread, that also we discussed. Right? And what are the priorities we have? Max priority, min priority, and a null priority. And by default, a thread runs in the background that is called your main thread. That is called your main thread. Now, let's start looking at the life cycle of a thread here. This is the life cycle of a thread. So what happens? A thread object exists, and the moment you call the start method, the thread will be in the runnable mode. I mean, the thread is in the ready mode. Instead of runnable here, you can take it as a ready. So when you call the start, it's in the ready mode, and from ready mode it switches to run mode. First, when you create a thread object, a thread is created. Now that thread is in the pool, ready to execute. The thread is in the pool, ready to execute when you call the start method. Now, when your processor picks the thread, then it will be in the running mode. Now, from the running mode, it can go to terminate, that is end of the thread. But sometimes if the thread process is big, then it goes to block. So when it can go to block? When you call sleep, it can go to block. When you suspend, it can go to block. When you say wait, it can go to block. So there are many reasons to go to the block mode. Now from the block mode, again it comes back to ready mode when your processor picks it again. Now what happened? We have two threads. No, there was a thread 1 and thread 2. So first you created what? Thread 1 object. So thread 1 object start method gets executed. Then your thread 1 is ready to execute. Your processor picks the thread 1 and it will be in the running mode. So it printed the name of the thread called Arun Kant. Then after that what happened? There was a sleep. Then it goes to the non-runnable or blocked mode. Then meanwhile what happened? Because your processor is idle, then your processor will pick up your thread 2 which is waiting, which is ready, and it prints Kiran Kant. Then your thread 2 goes to sleep. Now what happened is, now your processor is again idle. So earlier the thread 1 was sleeping, so it picks up. Your processor will pick up your thread 1 again. So when it picks up again, then again it will be in the ready mode. Then from ready mode it goes to running mode. So how long this process continues? As long as the thread is terminated. So once your thread run method is completed, your thread gets terminated. Once it gets terminated, it don't go to the block, rather it goes to the terminated. That is your end of the thread. Here. The thread is in new state if you create an instance of a thread class. So when you create object of the thread class, it is in the new state. But the moment the start method gets called, before the invocation of the start method. So when the thread is said to be ready or runnable, the thread is in runnable state, that is ready mode, after the invocation of the start method. But why it is in ready mode? Because there is something called as a thread scheduler, which has not selected it to be the running the thread. That is, the thread object is created and it is ready to execute, but your thread scheduler has not picked the thread for running. Now when the thread scheduler picks it up, it is in the running mode. So from the running mode, it can go to the blocked mode. What are the situations? When you call the sleep method, it goes to the block mode. When you call the wait method, it goes to the block mode. When you call the suspend method, it goes to the block mode. Now when I say block mode, it is nothing but it is not ready to execute. Then what happens again? Thread scheduler. With thread scheduler, move this blocked threads to running mode. Sorry, blocked threads to runnable mode. Blocked threads to runnable mode. So when the threads are on the runnable mode, again your thread scheduler will pick it for running. So in that way, they slowly gets completed, and at the end it will be in the terminated. A thread is terminated or dead when the run method exits. That is, when you complete your run method execution, that is nothing but your end of the thread. That's the end of the thread. Then here we discussed already creating a thread. Then you can see a little about the thread scheduler. Thread scheduler is a part of the JVM that decides which thread should run. There is no guarantee which runnable thread will be chosen to run by a thread scheduler. So there is no guarantee that which one it will choose. It purely depends on the thread scheduler implementation. It purely depends on the thread scheduler implementation, and only one thread at a time can run in a single process. So you can see there, only one thread can at a time can run the process. So only the end user gets a feel that the threads are getting executed simultaneously. But actually, only one thread will execute at a given point of time, and your thread scheduler will switches between the threads. And this thread scheduler mainly uses preemptive or time slicing scheduling. So there are some scheduling algorithms. So your thread scheduler can choose any one of the algorithm. Alright. So according to that algorithm, it picks the threads. Now what is preemptive scheduling? What is time slicing? Under preemptive, the highest priority one executes, right? And your lower priority ones wait. Alright. Whereas time slicing, every thread will execute. Suppose there are two threads. The first thread will take 1 minute. The second thread will take 30 minutes. So what happens? Every thread will execute for 10 seconds. Thread 1, 10 seconds, then thread 2. Then thread 1, then thread 2. Then thread 1, then thread 2. So after 30 seconds, your thread 2 is completed. Then what happens? It goes to the only thread 1 will keep executing it. So it's all depending on the algorithms, which we are not interested actually. This is not our agenda to understand the algorithms. Then we know how to make a thread sleep by calling the thread.sleep method. Then what we have next? Can we start a thread twice? After starting a thread, it can never be started again. If it does so, what happens? Illegal thread state exception occurs. Clear? So that is the only reason That is the only reason we are not interested to call the run method on our own. Oh, sorry, we are not interested to call start method. All right. Sorry, we will be calling the start method, and we start method will call the run method. So what happens when we call the start method twice? You get an exception called illegal thread state exception. Then why can't we call the run method directly? Each thread starts in a separate call stack. Right. So as I said, right. So why we are not calling the run method, and why are we depending on the start? Why are we calling the start method, and why the start method is calling the run method? Why can't we call the run method directly? If you call the run method directly, what happens is when you switch from one thread to another thread, you need to maintain the state of the existing thread. Suppose there are two threads, thread 1 and thread 2. Now I want to move from thread 1 to thread 2. If I have to move from thread 1 to thread 2, I need to maintain what? I need to maintain the status of the thread 1. But who has to write the logics for all these things? We are not going to write it. So that is already being implemented in the start method. So that is the reason we call the start method, which is already implemented. That is calling the run method. So what happens is each thread starts in a separate call stack. Each thread starts in a separate call stack. So there will be a stack which will be maintaining the state of the thread. And the stack is available, or that stack is provided by your start method. If you are calling your run method, then you don't have a stack to maintain the state. If you are calling the run method directly, then you don't have your stack to maintain the state of the thread. So what you need to do is you need to open to the Java implementation. That is, you need to look at the source code of the Java, source code of the thread class, and in the thread class you will see the start method. Look at the implementation of the start method. Then you can also develop the start method of your own, and then you can call the run method directly, or you can call the run method from your start method. Now we are depending on the built-in start method. Instead, you can develop your own start method, but you should know what the start method is doing. Now what is the start method? What is the built-in start method doing? Built-in start method allocates a stack for every thread. Right? So invoking the run method from the main method. So if you call the run method directly, it goes into the current call stack. That is, it goes into the main stack. If you are calling the run method directly, it goes into the stack of the main method. As I said earlier, there is one thread which always runs in the background. That is your main thread. So main is also a thread. Then that also will have a stack. So what happens when you call the run method directly? That becomes a part of your main stack. But what I want to do? I want to have a multi-threaded environment. So if you want to have a multi-threaded environment, so it is better you call the start method and the start method call the run method. But if you are still want to call the start method, if you still want to write the method of your choice, I mean, if you want to write your own implementations, then you need to understand what start method is doing. So go back and you can also look at the source codes of Java. That is what the open source is all about. So we can look at the source code of java.lang. Thread implements runnable. You see a lot of methods here. You got a sleep method also. Somewhere you down, you, okay, let me check it here. Whatever, you got a start method. So there is something happening in this. So you need to understand what is this logic is all about, right? When you understand what is the logic is all about, then you can write your own start method, and your start method should be capable of providing a separate stack for every thread. Providing a separate stack for every thread. Then only it comes as a multi-threading programming, otherwise it won't. And if you try to call the run method directly, what happens? It will be a part of the main stack. So it will not be treated as a separate thread. If you call the run method directly, it won't be treated as a separate thread. Rather, it will be treated as one of the function which is invoked from the main. So that it no longer be a multi-threaded. It will be the same in the main thread. You will be including one more method. If you want it to be a multi-threaded, then you call the start method. What happens? The way you have a stack for main, you will have another stack for the thread. Yeah. Any questions on this? Or is it clear for you why we are not calling the run method directly, or why we are not overriding the start method?
Yes, sir.
What next now? So we got thread objects, we know how to create threads, we also learned how to ensure that the threads run simultaneously. Right? The thread run simultaneously. Your thread 1 and thread 2 run simultaneously. Now let's do a little complicated example, a more complicated one. Package another. Now again I will be creating a classes, thread 1, there will be another class called thread 2. Now thread 1 also extends the thread class. Then I got a constructor which will call a start method. Then as usual I override the run method, because run method should consist of the logic. Then similarly I do it for thread 1 too. Alright. Now what is happening is, I want these two threads to share a common resource. I want these two threads to share a common resource. Now let me go back to the database, what I had earlier. Yeah, it got two records. I'm creating a class called student. ID and the name value. Private int ID So await string name, right click source, getter and setter. Perfect. Now I would like to create a class and I would like to name it as a read display. Now this class will have two methods. This class will have two methods. Public void read all. There will be another method, public void display. Now these two methods will have one array list in common, which will hold student objects. Which will hold a student object. Now what is the read all method going to do? Reads data. It's going to read the data from the database and stores into array list. The job is it has to read the data from the database and store into array list. Now what is this display method has to do? It should display the data from the array list. It should display the data from the array list. That is the agenda of your display method and the read all method. Read all method reads the data from the database and stores into array list. Display method displays the data from the array list. So let me complete the processes first. I need a connection. I need a statement. I need a result set. First thing is load the driver. I can just pull it from the method from call the method to get the connection. This is loading a driver. Then driver manager dot get connection. We got the username and the password. Load a driver and establish the connection. Loading a driver is done, establishing the connection is done. Now we need to prepare the query and execute the query. Connection dot create statement. Statement dot execute query. Student. Now I can check whether there is records in the result set or not. If there are records in the result set, I don't need to do this. I just check here while result set dot next. If there are records, set id result set dot get int of column 1 set name result set dot get string of column 2, right? Then add this to the student list. Add this student to the student list. So in this way, you add all the students to the array list. Right? Then we can add our finally block in case if you want to close the resources. That you can do it. Then what is your display method will do? Your display method is expected to display the records. So I check whether the size is greater than 0. If the size is greater than 0, if the size is greater than 0, then I'll start printing it. Student dot get id student dot get name. If the size is not greater than 0, I just give a message no records found. So what exactly happening? What is the intention of creating threads and what is the intention of creating read display and what is the intention of creating student? So I have a resource called read display. What I have? I have a resource called read display, and read display is the resource which is reading the records from a database, and the same resource is also printing the records of a database. It is reading the records from a database and it is also printing the records of a database. Who read display. Now what your thread 1 will do and what your thread 2 will do? Your thread 1 and thread 2, they both consume read display as the argument. 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 Your thread 1 also consumes and your thread 2 also consumes read display as the argument. Both of them consume read display as the argument. Fine, this is okay. And your thread 1 using the read display object will call what? Call the read all method. Your thread 1 is calling the read all, or your thread 1 is calling the display, and thread 2 is calling the read all. Your thread 1 is calling the display and thread 2 is calling the read all. Thread 1 is calling the display, thread 2 is calling the read all. Good, right? So let's go back, create a class, let me call it as a run, right? I'll call it as a run sync. I'll tell you why I'm calling it as a sync. Then what exactly I need to create a read display object. Then I have two threads. One is the thread 1, and this thread 1 also will take a read display object. I have another thread called 2, thread 2, that also takes a read display object. Fine. So when I create object, constructors executes, and the respective constructor is calling the start method, and the start method is calling the run method. The start method is calling the run method. The start method, the constructors call the start method, the start method calls the run method. So let me try to run it. What do I see? What do I see? I see no records. But do I have no records? Do I have no records in the database? I have records in the database. But what is happening? Because you started your thread 1 first, display is called, and then you call your thread 2, read all is called. So what is called first? Display. So when display is called first, of course there will be no records in the display, right? First, what should get called? Read all should be called first, then read all should be called first, read all should be called first, and then display should be called. Read all should be called first and then display should be called. But what is happening here is display is getting called and then read all. Right? So what is the problem? Now what is the problem here? Right? Because of the multi-threading, and I spoke about thread scheduler. God only knows which thread is going to be picked. When I say God, I mean the thread scheduler implementation. Whoever has implemented the thread scheduler, he can only tell you on what basis he will pick the thread. So I have two threads. We are not sure whether thread 1 will be called first or thread 2 will be called first. If thread 2 is called first and thread 1 is called next, there is no problem because thread 2 will read the data and store into the array, then thread 1 will be able to display. But the concern starts when thread 1 is called first. Because when thread 1 is called first, there is no data in the array. But how do we avoid this problem? How do we avoid this problem? Because when you have a multi-threaded environment, the thread scheduler will determine, the thread scheduler only will know what thread it's going to pick. Nobody will have a clue which thread it's going to pick because it's purely in the implementation of the thread scheduler which thread is going to be picked. So how do I solve this problem? How do I solve this problem? To solve this problem, I have something called wait and notify. I have something called wait and notify. So along with this array list, I have something called a Boolean variable. I just take the Boolean variable status as a false. Then what I do is, before I perform something this, I check what is the status value. If the status value is still false, right, I will be calling the wait method. If the status value is still false, I will be calling the wait method. Because when the status value is false, that indicates that the status value is false, that indicates that read method is not called. When the read method is not called, I'm asking the display method to wait. I'm not asking the display method to continue execution. So your display method goes to wait mode because the status value is false. Then what I do is, once this read is successful, then I call something called a notify method. Once the read is successful, I call the notify method, and before I call the notify method, I change the status value to false. I change the status value to true. Then what happens? Suppose if read all is called first. Read all is called first. What is the status value? True. Then you are notifying. Read all is called first. When read all is called first, there is no thread waiting. Read all method is called first, then no thread is waiting. Then you are changing the status value to true. Then what happens after read all display will be called? Opposite of true is what? False. False means you won't be waiting. You will be printing the data which is already read. But in case if the display is called first, what is the status value? It will be false. Since it is false, you are asking it to wait. Then meanwhile, your read all method gets executed and you call the notify. You are notifying a thread which is waiting, then this thread will come out of the wait mode and start executing it. Right? So this is what inter-thread communication. So what is this inter-thread communication? Inter-thread communication. One thread communicates the other thread with the help of wait and notify. This is your inter-thread communication. Now, your program should work successfully, right? You will have an exception. What is the exception? Illegal monitor state. You can do inter-thread communication only on the synchronized resource. I'm doing inter-thread communication, but I can do inter-thread communication on what? Only on the synchronized resource. So I'll make the read all method as synchronized. I also make display method as synchronized. Now you see the data. So what is synchronization? Your multi-threading is what? Multi-threading says one thread simultaneously more than one thread executes. Multi-threading. What is multi-threading? Executing more than one thread at a given point of time. At a given point of time is for multi-threading. But never, actually it will not happen. It only gives you a feel that they are executing at a given point of time. Now what is synchronization? Ensuring that a resource is being accessed to only one thread at a point of time. So it is quite opposite to multi-threading. Multi-threading is what? A resource is accessed simultaneously by many threads. But what is synchronization? Ensuring that a resource is being accessed to only one thread at a point of time. So then that is what synchronization. And in the purpose of synchronization, wait and notify plays a major role. So synchronization is opposite to your multi-threading. But why we still do synchronization? Because reliability is more important than performance. If you use multi-threading, it takes less time for execution. If you use multi-threading, it is quicker in terms of execution. The speed of execution is fast if you use multi-threading. But in the process of multi-threading, if your application is not performing properly, it is not giving you the desired results, then what it is? That is a bigger concern. First, you have to ensure that your application provides the desired output. Then you can think of improving the performance. But you cannot think of unreliable results at the cost of, I mean, in order to increase the performance, you cannot compromise on the unreliability. So first priority is for reliability, next priority is for the performance. So first you have to ensure that your application is working properly. So that's the reason the priority is why we use synchronization, because you cannot compromise on the quality of the product at the cost of performance. So that's the reason we do this. Yeah. Any question on this? Yeah.
Hi Arun, the thread will be executed by the calling order. Suppose if you call the thread 2 first, it will execute the thread 2 first, right?
No, that is not the, we cannot guarantee on it, because that's what is happening now. In this case, the one which is called first is happening first. But think of a very complex scenario. Think of a very complex scenario where you have multiple threads being executed simultaneously. So that's the reason here he has specified clearly that it purely depends on thread scheduler. There is no guarantee which runnable thread will be chosen to run by the thread scheduler.
Oh, it won't run by the order.
It won't run by. We cannot say that. Okay, it's not guaranteed.
Okay.
Sometimes it run by order, sometimes it not. So that is the reason I am synchronizing it. Now, in case if there is a guarantee that it runs by the order, then of course I run that read one first, right? I'll call the read all first and display next. But there is no guarantee about it. So that was the reason I was forced to do the synchronization.
Okay.
Because there is no guarantee which thread is going to execute first. Because thread scheduler is not guaranteeing about it. Even if you do priorities also, we cannot guarantee that thread scheduler will pick according to the priority. That is also not guaranteed. We have a set priority method to set the priorities. But mostly it will work according to the priority, but there is no reliability on that. Sometimes it may not go according to the priorities. So that is the reason we are doing the synchronization, to ensure there should be a reliability to the application.
Okay. Oh, so is the only the synchronization is the only method to synchronize that is we can execute by the order?
No, the thing is, it is not order, it's order. Even if you violate the order also, synchronization will ensure that you have a desired result. Suppose if you see thread 1 and thread 2, right? Now let me try thread 2 and thread 1 first. Still in this case also, because of synchronization, I have a reliable results. I cannot say which one is executing first, which one is not executing, which one is executing last. But I have a desired result. This is all happening because of the synchronization. But synchronization is a costly process, because as I said, it is quite opposite to multi-threading, right? And the people who are implementing threading, they may not be very efficient for people. I mean, suppose if you are in the beginning of your career, you hardly know what is multi-threading and you don't know how to do this, or you may not write a code which is very effective. So that is the reason what they introduced is they introduced something called concurrency. Now the problem is this array list is not synchronized. Okay, so what they introduced is they introduced something called concurrency. Now people hardly make use of, only in the gaming industry. All right, they will be using it. Only in the gaming industry, the gaming and animation, they are using multi-threading explicitly. But when it comes to us, we mostly make use of this concurrency API to solve all the problems of multi-threading. To solve all the problems of multi-threading, we'll be using this concurrency API. Now what is this concurrency API will do is, if one of your array lists, it can be anything, it can be array list or it can be any collection framework, if that is used by one thread, then other threads cannot use it. I reiterate the point.
Okay.
Now this array list is simultaneously accessed by both the threads. But if you are using a collection framework for java.util.concurrency, we're going to discuss few examples in the next class. Java.util. If you see concurrent, right? So if you use something from the concurrent, right? Array blocking queue. When we try to use these things, those collection frameworks, that is the collection framework which belongs to the concurrency API, they can be accessed by only one thread at a time. They cannot be accessed by more than one thread at a time.
Okay.
That we will discuss in the next class, how the concurrency API.
Oh, okay. Okay, Arun. Thank you.
This is what the very basics of, multi-threading and synchronization. Hardly we use it. Only the people who design the framework, right? The people who design the Struts framework. As a web service, we're going to see when you start working. I don't think, even I never developed any framework. I only use the framework to build the applications. So I hardly get an opportunity to develop and use something called multi-threading. But the people who develop the frameworks, like it can be a Struts framework or it can be a Spring framework, these all guys have used this threading concepts in depth.
Okay.
Or people in the gaming and animation, they use multi-threading explicitly, or the people who design the framework, they use explicitly multi-threading. But as application developers who develop the applications using the framework, they hardly get an opportunity to write something on multi-threading.
Okay. Okay, Arun. Thank you.
All right, guys. Any questions for me on this? What we studied so far? I know what we are left with concurrency. There is something called generics. They are very small topics. So that we will keep it up tomorrow. Reflections, annotation. Any questions? I'm ready. I'm good to take now. Otherwise, we stop here. We'll catch you in the next session. All right. If no questions, catch you in the next session. Thanks, everyone.